Talking about Tolkien, but for real this time, where Ben gets his shit together. How's it going, Ben?
It's going pretty well. Just some minor recording mishaps. It's okay.
And this episode is not brought to you by Bumble, the dating app that keeps advertising to me despite being married with very obnoxious music. So
I have literally never seen a Bumble ad.
Good. Then you've been spared from the shit music and the stupid ads.
I don't think I've ever even heard of Bumble.
Well, good. Now I'm educating you on an app you will never use because you are also married.
Is this on YouTube? Or what is this?
Yeah. It's on YouTube nonstop. And again, I'm married. Why would you advertise to me? You're wasting both your money and my time.
Is Bumble Grinder, or is that like for straight people?
No. Bumble, I think, is the one where the woman gets to make the advance. Like, you both swipe. You both swipe, but you can't talk to each other unless the woman reaches out.
Well, maybe there's another married couple out there looking for a unicorn on Bumble. But we're not here to talk about obscure threesome culture. We're here to talk about the children's novel, The Hobbit, by J.R.R. Tolkien. A threesome's not necessarily a polycule.
It will be in this case. Yeah, that ties in neatly to The Hobbit, chapter 11, The Polycule on the Sea, where Bilbo hooks up with Thorin and Bomber. And this is the chapter where Bomber does that thing that completely ruins Bilbo's opinion of him, and that's why he keeps calling him fat in the preceding chapters. It's all tying together.
Oh, Lord. No, it has nothing to do with strange sex acts. I mean, they're not. Oh, look, I'm not here to judge, okay? I'm just here to talk about Lord of the Rings. So we're actually talking about Chapter 11 of The Hobbit, On the Doorstep.
A very important chapter, Ben. First, they're rowing in boats. Then, they're using oars to paddle a boat up a river. And then they are steering boats through a river. And then they get out of those boats and they get on some ponies. And they trot on their ponies. And they walk beside their ponies. And they stop occasionally to camp with their ponies. And then they walk some more. I'm guessing this isn't
one of your favorite chapters.
And then they get to the mountain. And they're like, there's smoke coming out the front door. Dragon must not have left. That's a real bummer. We were really kind of hoping he would have left by now because that would have made this next part a lot easier. So then they're like, you know what? Let's walk to the other side of the mountain. We're going to put one foot in front of the other. We're going to hike over there. We're going to ambulate to the other side of this mountain. We're going to mobilize our dwarf troop. And,
I don't know if I'm in love with your tone right now.
and we're gonna climb up this mountain, hand over hand. We're gonna put feet in front of other feet, and we're gonna find where this door is located, and then we're gonna try and open it. We're gonna try to pry it open or use tools to open it. We are going to try and get inside of this door. We are going to try to unlock or unbar this door. But it's not working until the sun sets, because you see, it is now Durin's Day, which I believe is the equinox. And when the sun sets, it illuminates the magical key, and Thorin opens it with a key. And
okay, well, it doesn't just illuminate the key. It actually removes a mechanism that was blocking the keyhole.
Yeah, okay.
And now it can be unlocked with his key. Okay, so in the hands of a better storyteller, that chapter may have built slightly more suspense. Not to say that you didn't do a good job, but there's an element of this chapter.
See you next week, everyone.
Yeah. No, it's a psychological chapter. So
It's a psychological thriller.
it
The
kind of
aliens
is.
came down and the corn is bending and like, oh my god.
I don't know what you're even talking about. So you completely skipped
If any
the
of my friends
desolation
from
of
middle school are
smog.
listening to this,
Smaug.
Smaug. I call him
complete-
Smog.
I called him smog, but I think it is supposed to be pronounced Smaug.
Well, yeah, you know how color is supposed to be pronounced color? Yeah, exactly. You know how aluminum is supposed to be aluminum? Exactly. So it's Smog. This is one of the few times I'm going to say Tolkien was wrong. It's Smog.
You're going to get a lot of language nerds mad. But
That's okay. I won't listen to them.
what I was going to say is you've completely skipped the desolation of Smaug, which is something Peter Jackson saw fit to turn into an entire movie.
Yeah. He punched up that script.
Punched up that
Yeah.
script.
You got the barrel ride from hell. You got a romance plot, and I don't know what else. Actually, I never
So
watched that movie. Never wanted
have
to.
been asking.
Never going to.
you have been asking this entire journey, what is Thorin's plan for
Oh,
when he
also-
actually gets there?
Now is a good time to also bring up what a dragon is, but you can start with his plan for how he's going to get rid of the dragon.
So he doesn't
his
have
plan?
one.
Okay.
And that's starting to settle in now. I think that's what this chapter is really about. That's why they're taking so much time to get there, because until now, this has been a far off goal. They realistically may have died several times.
Yeah, we probably
Maybe-
could have died before this happened, and
Maybe they didn't
Now
even
we're
think
here.
they'd get here. Thorin probably never realistically thought it was going to happen. Intellectually, he knew it was an inevitability, but I don't think he really emotionally processed it until he's slowly paddling towards the mountain and seeing smoke coming out of it. And he's like, oh. And then they get to the other shore, and the men from Lake Town who have been escorting them are like, good luck. I am not going one step farther than this. Not at least until the prophecies come true. Good luck, King Under the Mountain.
I'm sure we'll be nice and safe in our lake town. That is where we're going back to safety.
I've got a bunker built on top of the water.
made out
nothing
of
safer.
solid wood.
I built a wooden city on a lake because that way, if it lights on fire, there's plenty of water. See, we were thinking, men of Lake Town. Those people in Gondor, they think they're so much better than us, building their giant literal ivory towers that stand like hundreds of stories tall, like the pharaohs of old. No. Men of Lake Town got it figured out. You build your town on the lake.
Well, that's because the aliens didn't come down to the lake men the way they came down to the Gondorians.
Technically, elves and Valar did kind of help out the Gondorians. So, anyway, not saying Tolkien believed in ancient aliens. I'm just saying he called them elves. So, once they get off the boats and they're on the ponies and they're walking a little bit, they start to see that every tree, every plant, the grass itself, everything is just a charred wasteland as far as the eye can see. Maybe you even started to doubt that dragons were a thing. Maybe, how bad could they be? How bad could one dragon be? How much could it really destroy?
Yeah, for
And
real.
the answer is
how bad is it?
everything in living memory. And so they get there and they can't really find their way in. And it just really highlights how they don't have a plan.
It only has 256 hit points, Ben. And an armor class of 19. This will be easy.
They're getting deep into some stuff. That's what this chapter is all about. This chapter is all about settling into the idea that there is actually a dragon in this mountain. And they don't even know what step one is. And you left out the one, perhaps final, I dearly hope, Bomber Fat joke.
Yeah, he didn't draw as much attention to it this time. That's why I left it out. It was just that they were gonna use ropes to pull up all the dwarves, but I think it's Beefer and Bomber are like, nah, we're gonna stay down here. Bomber's like, that rope can't hold me. I'll fall to my death. But he didn't call him a big fat sack or anything.
Tolkien says, fortunately, that would prove to not be true. Meaning, they're eventually going to need the ropes to escape, perhaps when they awaken a dragon. But you're right, nothing much happens other than Bilbo is the one to remember the magical door, because Bilbo pays attention to foreshadowing back in chapter, 3, 4? And Bilbo knows a little bit about Elvish, and he thinks in terms of riddles. He's really coming into his own. I forgot how much of a genuine hero Bilbo sort of becomes. He is replacing Gandalf. I totally forgot that
constantly bailing the dwarves out.
Yeah.
Left and right.
But I mean, Gandalf left and Bilbo picked up that weight. Bilbo, of all people, picked up Gandalf's weight. I forgot about that. And on a reread, I'm like, damn, I got a lot of I got a new respect for Bilbo. I'm kind of sad he doesn't have more of a role in Lord of the Rings now. But you're right.
Hey, he was there.
He was there. He does more in the books than he does in the movies. He doesn't immediately become 300 years old and senile in the books.
And then tries to take the ring and then is like, I'm sorry, I'm going to go now.
Yeah, no, he doesn't turn into a jump scare monster. But yeah, I think
we all can agree it would have been better if he would, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
You turn the page and it's just his face.
It's Junji Ito drew his face. It's a pop-up book, but only that one page.
Only that one page.
So, anyway, I think you're right. I think it is time we sort of talk about what a dragon is.
Yeah. What level do you need to get a dragon to in order to evolve it out of a Dratini?
So that's actually maybe an interesting question.
Maybe, okay.
If I stretch some things, so there is obviously some Norse myth around dragons. I think we'll talk about that more in future chapters, because I think especially when Bilbo is speaking with Smaug, I think that's probably the right time to sort of bring up Sigurd and Fafnir. But I want to build tension right now. I don't want to introduce you to a bunch of names you're going to laugh at. So instead, we're going to talk about the Silmarillion.
Okay.
We're going to talk about dragons within Tolkien's mythos. So like orcs, like wargs, dragons are a product of the Dark Lord's twisted machinations. The Morgoth, who was Melkor, who was Morgoth, I forget which order that's supposed to go in. He did this all back in the First Age. He created the dragons as his nuclear deterrent. This is his biggest weapon of all. Now, fortunately for the dwarves, Smaug is a relatively young dragon. He's not one of the original dragons from the First Age, because if he was, this is over.
How hard could it be, Ben?
Here,
I'll look it up.
Are you looking up the D&D stats?
I may be looking up ancient red dragons. His armor class is 22 and his hit points are 546. That seems possible. Challenge level 24. I bet Bilbo could stab it. So where'd all the other dragons go, Ben?
Okay, so first let's talk about how they got there. So the very first dragon Morgoth created, the father of dragons. And of course, like with everything else, there's some debate around what exactly they are. Obviously, he couldn't have created them from nothing because he can't create anything.
So he grabbed a salamander and then fought with other salamanders till they became chameleons, and then from there, dragons.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of, actually. So
Okay.
The father of dragons was Glaurung.
Glowrum.
Glaurung. Now, Glaurung is described as having, 4 legs, no wings. He was just
Oh,
a
well.
big,
I bet we could
tough.
kick his ass then. He no wings?
Well, I believe a human did beat him in the end, but he ruined that
Yeah.
human's life utterly first. That's the tragedy of Turin Turambar. So we'll get
Okay.
there. We'll get there. I was trying to avoid the names that would make you laugh. Now, the dragons go through some evolutions, as you have rightly pointed out. Eventually, we wind up with the fire-breathing winged dragons that are kind of like Smaug. But in the old days, when Morgoth was still around to like foster and breed and control them, he bred the strongest dragon that ever lived, the strongest of the winged fire-breathing dragons. We're talking like Godzilla-sized dragon, and Calagon the Black.
How do you even beat a Godzilla? Did they use the oxygen eliminator and take his ass out?
So this gets back to what happened to all the dragons. This was pretty much hopeless. Morgoth was gonna win, and eventually a half-human, half-elf manages to go to Valinor. This is the one I told you.
Oh, this is the guy he wanted to kill. Yeah.
And he
What a
begs
dick.
for the Valar's help. And they think about it. They think about killing him, but they eventually decide, opposite of that, we're going to help you. And
Oh, that's nice.
Yep. They assemble the host of Valinor. And this is called the War of Wrath, where the gods and their armies finally leave Valinor to go into what was then called the Beleriand and attack Morgoth.
Finally got up their asses to deal with their problem. Cool.
Yep.
Glad they're finally doing that.
This war would result in the sinking of half the continent.
Okay.
What's left winds up becoming Middle-earth as we know it. It was originally about twice as big, but most of it is
Wow.
underwater now.
Wow.
As they approached Morgoth's castle, he unleashed the dragons. And the dragons, obviously they didn't win, but they did make the gods take a step back. And like with every Tolkien story, fortunately, the eagles do eventually show up. I think there's an airship. Silmarillion gets a little weird. But yeah, there's a sky battle. With the aerial support, the Valar and their army are eventually able to like get in there and do what they need to do. But that's how powerful a dragon could be. They could.
You needed a god to kill it.
Yes, they made the gods themselves take a step back.
Wow.
Now, pretty much all of the dragons were killed in that battle. Some of them fled. They went to the corners of the world and very slowly repopulated. Smaug is the last of their descendants. He's the last great fire drake, according to Gandalf.
Wow. So after this book, because spoilers, Smaug isn't going to be around much longer. That's it? Like there's no other dragons?
According to Gandalf. So I don't know how much I've talked about this in this Hobbit series. It kind of gets a little beyond the scope of things. This gets into like the Silmarillion and the history of Middle-earth and a lot of things Tolkien hadn't decided on before he died. But this was supposed to be kind of the long-lost mythology of England. And eventually the story is supposed to be moving towards our modern world. So there aren't dragons today. Where did they go? This is where they went.
You can't prove that. I've seen Game of Thrones. There were dragons on that show.
Well, this is where I say Tolkien, he left himself a lot of room.
Oh, there you go. All the dragons went to Hollywood.
Had he lived another 100 years and continued writing, who knows how he would have developed it. But he hadn't. Now, Gandalf says he's the last of the great fire drakes. Gandalf has no idea what's happening in the Far East and the Far South. We only ever deal with Middle Earth. Gandalf really only travels around Middle Earth. He doesn't go very far east at all. I think even he says that. So there's plenty of blank edges of the map that Tolkien could fill in. But he was primarily focused on the part of the world that would become Europe, and then specifically the part that would become England. So, yeah, that's why everything's winding down. That's why the elves are going away. That's why the magic's going away. The dragons, the orcs, all that. It's going to be the Age of Men, which we will eventually inherit.
Yeah, that's right. It's our planet now. Get on your ships, asshole.
Again, this is something that he played around a lot more with in his super early writings. Like, we're talking like when he was in his 20s. He was kind of committed to the idea of the elves fading away. Like, when they say diminish, and going, like, he literally meant they get smaller and less real. Fading into the kind of spirits that we know elves to be these days.
Serves you right for flaunting your immortality and your beauty in our faces, assholes. What's that? You're a Keebler elf? That's right. Make some cookies for me.
The ones that go back to, in the original, like the early drafts, this is stuff that didn't even make it into the Silmarillion. He was tossing around the idea that the ones that don't go to Valinor become, Keebler elves. Essentially. Right. They become small, they become like weird, quirky little fey creatures, and he actually hadn't even settled on the name elf. He called them fairies, he called the Noldor gnomes. There's a whole, this is a whole ball of wax we can unwind one day. But yeah, Smaug is the last great winged, fire-breathing dragon that Gandalf knows of. And Gandalf is not omniscient, but we don't see another one for the rest of the series, so Tolkien might have stuck to that. But even so, even though he is not the strongest, he's still a big fucking deal. And his powers, the powers of dragons, obviously, he can fly. Obviously, though not Godzilla-sized, he still might be the size of the fucking like inferiority complex of the people that drive those cars.
Yeah.
That's how big he is. Oh.
Yeah, I could hear that. That was pretty loud.
Yeah, I love it. I love living here.
Why don't you just buy a house, Ben? Gosh.
I mean, I live next to houses. Those people bought houses. It didn't save them. I could buy a house not near a racetrack. That would probably help.
That actually would be a solid investment.
I didn't know there was a racetrack that close.
Racetrack.
I didn't know that was there when I moved here. Though it still doesn't save you from motorcycles. Nothing saves you from those people.
That's not true. Yeah. You just hit them with your car.
Yeah, just hit him with my car and go to jail.
Hey, he crossed in front of you.
Why is murder always the answer with you?
I always go out my way to hit motorcyclists in Grand Theft Auto. Like, it's just
Smaug.
a thing I do.
Smaug. He's big. He breathes a lot of fire.
He breathes a lot of fire. He doesn't like motorcyclists. Just everything you would expect out of a dragon.
You drive that dumbass car past Smaug's Mountain, you get what's coming to you. And that's why they live on a lake. But there is an additional power that dragons have, and this kind of maybe comes from Norse myth. They have
Frightful
like a
presence.
Kind of. That's actually kind of where I'm going. They have a almost hypnotic power. Unlike a lot of Sauron's servants, dragons are very intelligent in a traditional way. They're good at speaking. They're convincing. They're manipulative.
Morgoth? They're not Saurons, right?
Morgoth or Sauron. I mean, any of the evil lords.
Would Smaug have joined Sauron had he not been slain?
Possible. Because Sauron, the big power of the One Ring that kind of goes unemphasized is it dominates people's minds.
Oh, that'd be much more helpful than invisibility right now. You can just
In
dominate
in one of
Smog.
I'm talking
I'm
off
the
the cuff,
top
but
now.
in one of Tolkien's letters, somebody asks what would happen if the ring hadn't been destroyed, if the ring wraiths catch up to Frodo, would they be able to kill him? And Tolkien actually surmises that they probably would not have been able to kill Frodo. They would have remained loyal to the Dark Lord, to Sauron, but Frodo may have had some limited ability to command the ring wraiths once he fully embraced the ring as his own. Like this is how Sauron is managing that army of cannibalistic orcs. This is how they form proper rank and file. This is how they do complicated military maneuvers. Sauron dominates them with the ring. And so, if Sauron was able to restore more of his power, and if he was able to meet with Smaug, it is possible he could have commanded Smaug.
Could Bilbo have commanded Smog to go get Sauron? Like, go get him. Kick his ass. I'm the Dark Lord now.
That is kind of the contentious thing, because Sauron is still like an archangel in his own right. His whole spirit is not in that ring, so he still possesses a certain amount of just innate power. But Bilbo might be able to command Smaug to do something not quite as contentious, like maybe Bilbo could command him to kill Thranduil's armies.
Okay. I'm going to pretend I know who Thranduil is.
You know who Thranduil is. He's the Elf King.
Oh, yeah, fuck that guy. Yeah, go kick his ass. He imprisoned us. Burn his forest to the ground, but save him for last. I want him to watch.
Save him for last. I want him to watch. Oh my god. But yeah, but we're retconning. So this ring is not the One Ring at the moment, and so that never really occurs to Bilbo, and it doesn't seem to have that dark power. It's just a fun little ring that turns you invisible right now. I don't know what headcanon you want to use for that, but I guess maybe Bilbo hadn't fully embraced it in that way, but he did wear it for like 3 weeks straight in the Elf King's halls, so I don't know. It didn't bother me very much the last time I read The Hobbit, but now that I'm reading it with like this detailed analysis and connecting it to all the other lore, the retcon is really, really obvious. Like large parts of The Hobbit do not blend seamlessly as well as I thought they did. But yeah, going back, dragons have an innate hypnosis. They can mesmerize. They can in the tragedy of Turambar, and I may be pronouncing that incorrectly. He is like manipulated. His memories are muddled, and he fucks with this guy. I'll tell you, he tricks him into sleeping with his own sister.
What?
She finds out that they don't know they were brother and sister. They were like separated at birth. And when they find out, she throws herself off a cliff. He vows vengeance. He kills Ancalagon the Black, and then he falls on his own sword.
That sounds like bullshit, and you're wrong, Ben, because it was the first dragon that was killed that way.
Oh, you're right. It was Glaurung.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Sorry, I thought you were the lore master, Ben. I didn't realize I would have to do the work.
Who's Thranduil? I misnamed one dragon once.
Do they call him Thranduil in this? I can't recall. I thought he was just the elf king.
He's only been referred to as the Elf King so far.
Go.
I think somebody's going to have to say his name at some point. Maybe not. Maybe they'll just call him by his title the whole time. But he's Thranduil. I've called him Thranduil. So you should at least pay attention when I'm speaking.
Absolutely not.
But this is my main point. This is a creature they're going up against that can easily kill all of them. And
we've got no plan. So
they've got no plan and not great weapons. Orcrist is gone.
Do they have any weapons other than Bilbo's sting?
They were rearmed, but they don't have any more of those like magic elf weapons, except Sting.
Like, we need you to rearm us. All right, we've got wood. That's all we've got in Lake Town. We can get you some fishing rods and some nets. Maybe you can throw him over Smog, and he'll be confused.
We've got this, like Bill fancies himself a blacksmith, and he does pretty good swords for the most part. He's still working on straight lines, though. So you have this one. It's a little lumpy. It's lumpier than you'd want a sword to be. But this part right here holds an edge like nothing. So good luck with your dragon.
Bye. Off to safety at Lake Town.
Yeah, so it's... I do think it's trying to build suspense. I think it builds a little more suspense if you know just like how intense this dragon's going to be. And know that there was at least one draft, I think. I don't know if it was a full draft or if it was just like a sketch, but there was at least a consideration that Bilbo might kill Smog.
Oh, yeah?
That was very quickly ruled out.
Well, he would have had to stab him when he was invisible, and that's not very heroic.
Neither is not being responsible for killing him at all. And then when the people who do kill him show up to be like, hey, you owe us some money for our burnt town, Thorin's like, fuck you.
Yeah, I actually don't
Spoilers,
owe you any money. I'll pay you for the weapons you gave us, which sucked. Thanks for nothing. And, yeah. I'll pay you your share when you go through Mirkwood and through the Elf King's dungeons and through the Misty
Elf
Mountains.
King comes out and he's like, I support their claim.
Yeah, that makes me want to give you money even less, actually. Yeah. All right, Ben. What do we do now? Are we done with that? I think we're done. And we don't have any outro, so join us next time when we encounter Smaug for the first time.
And if you want to get these episodes as soon as they release, consider subscribing to our Patreon. Sometimes I even release them early. Sorry about that.